IVM.
You have to be careful with everything nowadays, even while drinking water. There I was sitting at home drinking water, massaging my wife's feet. Always do that together because I love my wife. She's my beloved wife. And then my son calls me up from Canada, all the way from Canada, and he says, "Dad, have you heard?" I was watching the game at that point. I was a little irritated. I said, "Heard what?" And he said, "Now you can get Kotak home loans at just 6.5%. I went crazy. I spat all over my own wife. After massaging her feet, I spat there. Can you believe it? And I couldn't believe it. I spat over her, and all I can say is, Kripiya dhyan rakhiye. Because now I'm sleeping on the living room couch as a result of that. But really, folks, can you believe it's 6.5%? That is incredibly low for a home loan. Just visit www.kotak.com for more info. Terms and conditions apply. Interest rate starting at 6.5% per annum.
At many events, or maybe in a classroom, an instructor, the speaker, a teacher may have told you, please ask any questions that you may have. There's no such thing as a silly question. Yes? I'm sure we've all been told this at some point in our life. Well, today on Say No to Drama, I'm really questioning whether there is something such as a silly question. Hi, I'm Chetna, and I'm a positive action coach. And in my Say No to Drama podcast, I'm stripping away all the drama that we create or we allow others to create in our life. Now, I know that a lot of us don't ask questions. We may want to ask so many different things, but we just keep quiet. Why? Because we don't want to seem like we're stupid, like we're silly, or even the fact that we don't know enough in that given situation. Oh my God, how can I not have all the answers? How can I let anybody else think that they know more than I do? What will they think of me? Maybe they won't want to associate with me if I know less than them. So I know that this is all the judgment that we do go through. It happens to the best of us. If you think I'm exempt or I'm better than you, absolutely not. There have been so many situations where I've sat across the table and said, if I ask this question, they're going to know that I don't read the news or watch any news channels or news reports. Yes. Ask me about current affairs, including some really heinous crimes that have happened in our country. And chances are that I will know little about it. And instead of watching the news, I usually have a couple of friends who I will call up and say, okay, give me an update. Because I don't have the stomach for these things, right? Well, here's me confessing on Say No to Drama. This is a drama that I create in my life. I avoid bad news like it were a hornet's nest. So if any of you tuning in have an issue like me, where you will hesitate to ask a question in certain specific situations, or maybe some of you have just made this a habit, no matter where you are and in whichever situation, and you will not ask any questions, even if it is a legit one, well, maybe today's episode can help you decipher which ones you can safely ask, which ones you need to ask in a certain way, and which ones you just need to keep quiet and go back home and Google it later. So let me give you my one and only one rule about asking questions. Before you ask the question out aloud, ask yourself, do you really not know the answer? Yes, think about that. Do you really not know the answer? In my books, the only question that I would label as a silly question would be one where you know the answer, but you're asking a rhetorical one, or you're asking it aloud because you're too scared to admit it or accept it to yourself. And yes, as a life coach, I would still respond to your question, but it is a silly question. You know the answer. You know the truth. And I don't say that with any judgment. I'm just saying it as a matter of fact. So here's the ground rule. If the question you are asking is one for which you already hold the answer, but you don't want to say it aloud, then that is a silly question. You not knowing certain facts, you being ignorant about certain things that are happening in the world, sure, some people may term those questions as silly, but answers to those can always be found. Like I said, you could open your phone under the table and Google the topic and you could get your answers. Or you could ask a friend who knows you well enough and would be kind and compassionate enough to break it down for you. I have lots of those friends and they get harassed by me regularly. But when it comes to rhetoric questions, or when it comes to questions where you are asking for reassurance or guarantees, those, my friend, are silly questions. Like the times when I'm asked, is it okay for me to be in touch with my boyfriend of 6 years? We just broke up and it was an ugly breakup and the end of the relationship was really not nice. My response is, what do you think? Do you think it's going to do you good? I mean, what are you looking for from me? Do you want me to give you the perfect answer and tell you what is normal, what is not normal, what is right, what is wrong? Well, honey, I'm not the voice of your conscience. That voice is inside of you and you need to listen to that. You need to listen to your feelings, right? And if you want to know more about my perspective on whether you should be friends after a breakup, listen to the previous episode. Or the time when I'm asked, should I quit my job? Do you think that would be the right thing for me? How can I decide what is right for you or wrong for you? I can give you 5 more questions for you to figure out whether it is right or wrong. For instance, if anybody would ask me, do you think I should quit my job right now? My first question to them would be, are you unhappy in your job or are you dissatisfied? Is your job not giving you what you want in terms of fulfilling your goals and ambitions? And depending on the answers to these 2 questions, I would then ask, okay, you'll quit this job. What will you do next? Do you want to find a job in the same industry, one level up? Or do you want to move out completely and do something completely different? So if you ask me a question, the answer for which only you can give, I'm going to give you 5 more questions in return. And when somebody is responding to a question with a question, well, I'm thinking we're sitting with a bunch of silly questions. Let me also say this, guys. Sometimes these bunch of silly questions are important because they allow us to introspect, they allow us to dig deeper, they allow us to peel off some layers. And that's why do not be afraid to ask those silly questions. But yes, do check in with yourself. Do I already know the answer to this question? And if I know it, why am I feeling like asking this to this person sitting with me? What is it that I'm expecting them to say? A lot of times, when a client throws a bunch of what-if questions back to me, I know that those are all silly questions, and the only reason they are throwing those what-if questions at me is because they're not hearing exactly what they want me to say. I'll give you an incident that happened recently before I sign off. A client of mine was struggling with a particular problem, and we came up with 4 solutions. And yet he continued for the next 40 minutes to throw, what if this happens, but what if that happens, but what if I feel like this, and but what if I continue to do that? And finally, at one point, I stopped him and I said, what is it that you want to hear from me? What is the solution that you are looking for that'll make you stop standing in the problem zone? And he said, I want a solution that will just take this thing, take this habit out of my mind and throw it out, eliminate it completely. And my response to him was, that's not possible. So you see, because he was not getting the exact perfect solution that he wanted, he continued to throw what ifs at me. And let me tell you this, all those what ifs were silly questions. They were a waste of time. That was his mind's way of keeping him in problem zone. Because once the mind gets familiar with something, it doesn't want to change. It would much rather deal with the discomfort that it is used to than try to get used to a new kind of comfort. Because hey, all comforts will come with some pins and needles attached to it. Anyway, on this note, I'm going to head out, guys. But I hope that you are listening to all the previous episodes of the Positively Unlimited podcast and Say No to Drama. I'm particularly proud of the 2 episodes I did on how we are using Instagram. Yes, those 2 are on Say No to Drama. And I've also done a bunch of episodes already on Say No to Drama about hustling, following your passion, and some about the dating dramas that we go through. So head on to the IBM Podcast app and website and tune into those episodes. You can connect with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is IBM Podcast. And you can connect with me on Instagram. My handle is Positivity Angel. In case you would like to book a session to clear your mind, to figure out some tools to deal with certain bad habits that you may have, DM me on Instagram and we will schedule a time and date that works.
$100. That's all it takes to begin your journey with Bitcoin and Ethereum. No, really. With CoinSwitch, you can start investing in over 100 cryptocurrencies with just 100 rupees. On top of that, there are 0 charges for deposits and withdrawals, so you can trade, buy, sell, however and whenever you want. All of this, plus their extremely intuitive interface, makes CoinSwitch the perfect app for beginners in the crypto space. But don't take my word for it. Just download CoinSwitch for free and try it out for yourself. If you'd like more information on cryptocurrencies, tune into a show about crypto with me, Rohan Joshi, my new adventure on IVM Podcasts. CoinSwitch, kuch to badlega.
Hello, everybody. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcasting Network. On Advertising is Dead, Varun speaks to the co-founders of Deserve, Sahil Contractor and Sandeep Chetna about their business model, their experiences in the investment space, and how the consumer's point of view on money has evolved. On the Wire Talk, Siddharth is in conversation with Srinivas Kodali, an independent researcher and civic hacker, about Aadhaar. On Marathi Kirkitun, Dr. Rajiv and Manik Deshmukh pay homage to the late Ratnakar Matkari by exploring his literary journey. On GBCD, Farhad and Sunitra share their favorite queer icons. And on Cyrus Says, Anjala Taneja, head of advocacy at Oxfam India, talks to Cyrus about the disparities in vaccine distribution. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you enjoyed this show, or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. We appreciate the word of mouth. And finally, we'd like to thank the sponsors on our network this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda Quarter, CoinSwitch, Kuber, Slay Coffee, Intel, and Kotak Mahindra Bank. Thank you so much for making this possible.